Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the class. How are you all? I hope you people are good and safe at your home. Then most of your friends has came to school when you need to come. We actually started our revision classes from the first chapter and we have a different idea here. So you need to come to the school. Definitely, it's must and need. It's a must and should that you need to come to the school. Because we have different idea for this ninth class and the 10th class. Mainly for the 10th class we are looking a good future for you people, and this idea definitely it will work in the successful way. If it is successful, you will get a good marks in the 10th class, so your future will be brighter. So that reason, come to the school, do not miss, and complete your exercise. And I told you to buy a reference book. If you buy a reference book more than one, it will be very good, and you should have at least one reference book with you. So that's all required. Complete your exercise and complete your rough notebook and the classwork, everything, and come to the school and watch videos. So if you come to the school regularly, there is no need of making a videos, is not. So for you people, I'm making a double work here. So that reason, do not miss seeing on a single day. Come to the school, make use of this time for preparing your future. So okay, we'll start our second lesson revision. The first lesson we have discussed about that. So first lesson is a very much important lessons. There you will get around 5 marks, 5 to 8 marks from the first lesson. In the last year, according to last year, now it increases 10 to 15 marks you will get from that first lesson. Not around 10 marks you get that from first lesson. So we need to prepare for all those things. Questions I'll be dictating you people how many first marks question, how they'll ask 1 marks based questions from the first chapter, 3 marks based questions, and questions which is based on the 5 marks. So how they may ask questions based on this all the categories. You'll be discussing when you come to the school for having a revision. So it will be good, and we cannot have a discussion, much discussions you are here through this online, because we cannot have interaction with you people. Only I can saying something like everything. It will not be good for having interaction, and it will not be good to have clearing our doubts and getting information. This is not. So once if you there virtually and if you talk with you people, having some conversation, and it will be good. So I hope you people get to the school from next day, means next week. Okay, we'll start without a late. We'll start our next lesson. It's about agriculture. We know this agriculture is a basic activity, and as you get a term name agriculture, and you will get one idea in your mind. Agriculture. What will get a picture in your mind? That you will get a picture of the farmer, land, agriculture land, and outside field, agriculture field, and growing something other crops over there. You will get that agriculture. Is it not? It's a basic thing. Yes. So every population, almost most of the population in the world are dependent on this primary activity. More than half percent of a population that are dependent on the agriculture. In India, mainly in India, more than 60% of population they are dependent on agriculture. So this dependence and this interaction with the agriculture activity and the human being, it's not new one. It's from the ancient period. As we discussed, the civilization has begun because of this agriculture. It's not only one factor, but it's one of the factor which is caused for the civilization, beginning of a civilization. How the civilization has begun? Civilization under nagarikate, ಒಂದು ಮಾನವನ ನಾಗರಿಕತೆ, lifestyle, the change in the lifestyle, change in a new lifestyle is called as a civilization. So how the ancient period, means ancient people, nomads, where got changed into the new style, means civilization, new civilization. How they get into new civilization? So the agriculture is a main one thing, and their population and their thinking skill is got increased, and their talent and the skill got increased. Then afterwards their desirable things got increased, their desires started to get increased. So they started to settle in one place. Earlier they were cutting a trees and chopping of the trees and putting fire into that wood, and they were getting fertility, and they were sowing the seeds. They were getting crop in that way, and they were killing the animals, they were hunting animals, they were getting flesh of that, and they were moving from one place to another places in search of food. They were continuously traveling from one place to another places. They were sleeping in the caves. So they got idea of agriculture, growing a crop in a one field. So earlier they were shifting the field. So they have started to fix the agriculture field, and beside of that they started to construct their house and they started to live there. Before that they were living in the what is that caves. Now they have started to live in a house which they have built. So they started to build a new house and agriculture activity, and the dressing sense is begun from there. They started to create their own relations. They started to have think in a different way for creation. So that's how the civilization has begun. The civilization has begun because of this agriculture. It's one of the main factor. It's not. From there till now, in the future also, people are will be dependent on. They are dependent on this agriculture activity because we need the food to survive. So we will get a food because by growing up crops. So that's what we have been surviving by doing this agriculture activity. So that's what we will be discussing. So about this agriculture activity and about these practices of agriculture, we discuss from the first standard, mainly from the sixth standard. We are knowing about this. We are well known about these things. We know about the features of agriculture. Now in this class, as we discuss, let's just a revisions. In this class, we will be discussing what are the types of agriculture we have in India and the whole world, relating with the whole world, and what are the types we are following up in India, and what are the types of crops and the pattern, the cropping pattern in India. What are the different types of crops we are growing in India? We will be discussing about that, and how that growing crops that damages the soil and the land, and that also damages many environment. We'll discuss how, and how can we conserve that soil, how can we make that to sustain in the future. We'll be discussing. First we'll have an introduction, some that's what we discussed. Now the agriculture, we know it's agriculture activity where the people they are means after sowing the seeds they are putting up plants over there, is not they may be growing the wheat over there, rice. Then the agriculture is a primary activity which produces most of the food that we consume. Beside food grains, it also produces raw materials for various industries. Some agriculture product like a tea, coffee, spice. We are dependent. Most of the population on the earth's surface, they are dependent on this agriculture activity because agriculture activity that provides the food. Food is the main basic things. We require the basic facilities like food, water, air, and sunlight. The air, water, sunlight you will get abundantly, but food we need to prepare. Food is we don't get that ready-made food. We can get this all these things which is ready-made, but the food we have to make that. We have to prepare the food. Is not. There are raw foods which we can get. Raw foods are there. The leaves and the meat. There are raw foods which is no need of preparing the food. The fruits, vegetables, which is no need of preparing. Is not. But now, as the human civilization got increased, as the humans thinking tendency got increased, and the taste also got increased. Now people want to have a different taste than the other means earlier. So that reason we need to prepare the food according to the climatic conditions, according to the age, and according to that era. We need to prepare the food. That according to the availability also we need to prepare the food. That's what will be need to prepare the food. I'm having gastric because of this bloody food. Okay, that's what the food need to be prepared. So we'll make all these resources to we'll make use of this all these resources for the producing of a food. So that's the reason the agriculture activity is a main important activity for every human being. Almost all the human beings are dependent on this agriculture activity, not only for getting a food. This agriculture activity that provides raw material for industries. Nowadays in the modern age, in the modern era, the most of the industries are agro based industries. They are dependent on agricultural products, like it may be the cotton, many other things. Even the rice is goes to the wheat, it directly goes to the industries over there, mills. From the it varies, mill, farm, industries are there, different types, factories. So this all comes under the secondary activity. So the raw materials will be sent to there, and they will make different types of rock. They will get it, they will get different their own labels, it may be their own quality, they will add into that products and they will sell in the market. So it's like that the cotton will be sent to the as a raw material, it will be sent to the industries. They will make it as a different, they will give a different structure for that. They will prepare a new thing from there, the short it may be they, many textures they will textiles they will prepare from that and they will sell in the market. So because of that, for the secondary activity, primary activity plays an important role. So for different activities, the primary activity is the main basic things. So that's what we will be discussing. Now we will be discussing about types of farming. Types of farming. So you know what is it? Agriculture? Agriculture is nothing but art and science of growing crops, ಕಲ್ಟಿವೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೇರಿಂಗ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್. ಅದು ಒಂದು ಬೆಳೆಗಳನ್ನ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದಾಗಿರಲಿ ಮತ್ತು ದನ ಕರುಗಳನ್ನ ಸಾಕೋದು ಕೂಡ ಅದೊಂದು ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್, ದನ ಕರುಗಳನ್ನ ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳನ್ನ ಸಾಕ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ರೇರಿಂಗ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಎಸ್ ಅ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್. It's types of a farming. So that's what we'll be discussing about types of farming. We have different types of farming in India and the whole world we are following. So we are practicing. So we'll be discussing. So mainly we have two types of farming in India. What are those two types? Yes, subsistence farming and commercial farming. Subsistence farming and commercial farming. We will discuss difference about the subsistence and commercial farming. Cultivation method has changed significantly depending upon the characteristics of physical, environmental and technological norm. So how and social culture practices. So this cultivation method earlier, so ancient period people means ancient like nomads, that peoples were practicing this agricultural activity in different method. Now we are practicing this activity in the different method. The cultivation, it's in a different method and the process will be different than that, is not. So how it has changed? So this evolution or it may be this change in the method of cultivating the crops has been changed because of technological improvement and also geographical and climatic conditions and the social and political influences and the demand from the economical demand. So this all led to make improvement in a growing culture, make improvement in the method of cultivating crops. So these are the factors which responsible, which is made influence in increasing or in adopting the new method in agriculture, is not. Earlier ancient period they were growing the crops in a different way. So according to that time and the people, it was good. They have invented new things. As the time passed there, the new generation has came in the ancient period and the people that got increase in the population and their thinking ability also got increased. For them it was a new modern age because they adopted somewhat new thing in the agriculture activity. Then it as goes on many things. Now also we introduce the new things and every year we will be introducing new crops and new things in a new machines in agriculture activity. In the next generation also they may increase, they may adopt a new technology in agriculture activity. So it will become new modern. It's not new modern age. So it will continue, it will goes on. And this modern age what we have now, it may become old, but unfortunately we are going to see the end of this world because everything we are exploited, every resources we have been using indiscriminately and we are not what you call favorable. Our work is not favorable to the nature, means environment. So environment is definitely going to return back, means it's what you call push back our activity. So whatever the treatment, harsh treatment we did against of this, means on the environment and nature, it's going to return back to us. Then we need to face a problem. So that reason as I'm telling that we are going to see a shorter end. So we'll continue. The farming varies from the subsistence to the commercial types at present different part of India. So in India also we have this two types of farming, means we are practicing these two types of farming, subsistence farming and commercial farming. So subsistence and commercial, these are the two types of farming. Subsistence farming is it's a practice of cultivating crop in a smaller plot of land. Whatever the crops are grown in that land or for making use of the family members of the farmer, and there the whatever the machines and fertilizer are used is less in a number, means in a quantity, they'll be making use of less machines on the quantity, and the labors, means their family members, they works as a labor in their agriculture activity in the subsistence farming, and they will be getting a less yield because they will be using a less fault, means less plot of a land for the growing a crop, so they will be getting, in the result they will be getting a less yields. And their intention is not to put in the market, but in the commercial activity, in the other hand, so this commercial activity is for the business. So whatever the crop is grown in the larger areas, they will not grow in the smaller area, they grow the crops in a larger area. It will be single crop, suppose it is a plantation, they will grow in a larger area because their idea is to put in the market, their idea is to put that product in the market to get a money. So business minded, so that is a commercial activity. So they make use of a large number of machines, and also the fertilizers, they will get a more yield. So that's what we will be discussing deeply. So now in under this subsistence farming, we have two types. One is primitive subsistence and another one intensive subsistence farming. So we have two types further in under this subsistence farming. One is primitive subsistence farming, another one is intensive subsistence farming. So now let us discuss about how the primitive subsistence farming will be practiced and what is that all. So here primitive is nothing but the term, the word itself says about this, that primitive is nothing but old, primitive tools, that means old tools, primitive thinking, old thinking. Primitive subsistence farming. So this type of farming is still practiced in a few pockets of India. Like a primitive old means ancient period, in the era, means in the age of ancient age, there the ancient people, they were practicing this type of primitive subsistence farming. At the beginning, before the beginning of a civilization, they were practicing, means when the civilization got begun, actually from there they were practicing this type of agriculture, primitive subsistence farming, means old subsistence farming. So what they used to do, mainly the people, they were living in a forest area, they were living in a forest area before they were having a settlement. Before they were having idea of a settlement, they were living in the caves and the forest areas. There they used to chop the trees like this, what this part of a picture shows. They used to chop the trees, then they used to come back after 2 months. Till then it will be this, all the things would have get dried. So then afterwards they used to put a fire, they used to put a fire into that woods, and after 3-4 months they used to come back. So the reason behind they living that area for 3 months is they were letting that area to get fertility. How that you will get a fertility? So when they burn this, that final they will get ashes, booty, ashes, they will get ashes. So when the ash mixed with the rainwater, that adds fertility into the soil, is not, that gives a fertility to the soil. When that adds, means ash adds into the, with the so what you call the water, rainwater. So then after 4 months they need to come back, they used to come back, and by that time the area it was getting a fertility because of mixing with the ashes and the water. So they used to sow the seeds. So they were continuing the same. Suppose if they get a yield from there, one, suppose they grow the wheat, they got a wheat yield, and they used to shift that land. They were not growing again, they were not making use of that land for growing the crops again there. They were shifting that places. Why? What is the reason? Because once if they get a yield from there, once if they get a crop from there, the land, it was losing their fertility. So they were not having much idea of adding fertilizer, because if they make use of this land for growing crops and if they got a yield, there is no any plant left behind there for cutting and putting fire and getting ashes. There is no any forest over here in this place. So that reason they used to shift that to the another places where there is availability of water and the good amount of trees. So that was their activity. So now it's this kind of activities now also it's in under the process in the African countries, in the continent of Africa. There also some part of African countries following this primitive subsistence farming. Along with the India, in the eastern part of India, we have some portion in the some part of areas in the forest, they are practicing this, mainly tribals. The help of primitive tools like hoe and digging sticks are family community labor. So here, as we discussed, the main characteristics of this primitive subsistence farming is that they will make use of primitive tools. ಹಳೆಯ ಒಂದು ಸಾಧನಗಳು ಯಾವುದು, ಹಳೆಯ ಒಂದು ಈಗ ಪಿಕಾಸಿಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ, ಮರದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಳ್ಳ ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅವರು. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ತಗೊಂಡು ಕಟ್ಟಿಗೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಚೂಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹಳ್ಳೆ ತೆಗೆಯೋದು. ಸೊ ಅದೊಂದು ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್, ಓಲ್ಡ್ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾಟ್ flowing the land, old tools, by using old tools flowing the land. And their family, they were not hiring. So this shifting, under the shifting agriculture, they don't hire any people from outside to work as a labor in their field. They hire, means they make use of their family members as a labor there. ಅವರ ಒಂದು ಕುಟುಂಬದ ಸದಸ್ಯರೇ ಅಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸದ ಆಳಾಗಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಇನ್ ಅಂಡರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್. And they will not be getting much investment. There is no need of putting more investment in growing any crop over here, because for adding fertility in the soil there is no need of purchasing anything, because when they cut the trees they will get a wood and they will put a fire for that. They will get ashes. After getting ashes they will mix with the water and that will get a fertility in the soil. There is no need of putting some investment over there. It was their activity. This type of farming depends upon a monsoon. Naturally, fertility of a soil are suitable for the environment conditions due to the crop growing. Here, in under this primitive subsistence farming, the people, they were depending on monsoon, because when they cut the trees, put the fire, they will get ashes. To mix the ash with the water, they need to wait for the monsoon, rainy season, because everywhere we cannot find a water. If it is beside of a river and the pond, lake, we can get the water, but that we cannot find the water in everywhere. So that reason they were waiting for the monsoon. Before monsoon season starts, they used to cut the tree. Before 3 months they used to cut the trees, means chop the trees. So by the 3 months during the summer, it will be very high temperature. Is not in the summer ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಮಳೆಗಾಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಮಾನ್ಸೂನ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಆಗ ಸಮ್ಮರಲ್ಲಿ 3 ತಿಂಗಳು ಸಮ್ಮರಲ್ಲಿ, ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಸಮ್ಮರಲ್ಲೇ ಮರಗಳನ್ನ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಮರಗಳು ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಣಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, 3 ತಿಂಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈ ಟೆಂಪ್ರೇಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಣಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಅವಾಗ ಬಂದು ಬೆಂಕಿ ಆಗ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಅದು 1 ದಿನ 2 ದಿನದಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೂದಿ ಆಗ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಹುರಿದು. ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಳೆಗಾಲ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದಾಗ ಆ ಮಳೆ ಈ ಬೂದಿ ಜೊತೆ ಸೇರಿ ಆ ಮಣ್ಣಿಗೆ ಫಲವತ್ತತೆ ಬರ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು. ಆಮೇಲೆ 2-3 ತಿಂಗಳಾದಮೇಲೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬಂದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಜಗಳಾಗ್ತಾಯಿದ್ರು. ಮತ್ತು ದೇ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಗೆಟ್ ಅ ಕ್ರಾಪ್. ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಐಡಿಯಾ. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನೌ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರಾಕ್ಟಿಸಿಂಗ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್. So it's called as slash and burn agriculture. This also called as slash and burn agriculture, otherwise shifting agriculture. ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ನ 3 ಹೆಸರಲ್ಲಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಏನು? ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್, ಸ್ಲಾಶ್ and burn agriculture, and shifting agriculture. So the soil fertility decreases when they make use of land for the one growing crops. It decreases, the fertility will be decreases, then they need to change the land. So that's the reason it was called as a shifting agriculture. The farmer shift and clear the fresh patch of land for the cultivation. So here in India also we have practiced, and we are given different name for that. Jumming ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಮಿಜೋರಾಂ, ನಾಗಾಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಮಿಜೋರಾಂ, ನಾಗಾಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ದೆನ್ ಅಸ್ಸಾಂ, ಈ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಈಸ್ಟರ್ನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಶಿಫ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ನ ಜುಮ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಪಮ್ಲು ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ? ಮಣಿಪುರಲ್ಲಿ ಪಮ್ಲು ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ದೀಪ, ಬಸ್ಟಾರ್ಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ, ಛತ್ತೀಸ್ಗಢಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಬಸ್ಟಾರ್ಡ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟಿಕಲ್ಲಿ ದೀಪ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಿಮಿಟಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಹೆಸರನ್ನ ದೀಪ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಮತ್ತು ಮಣಿಪುರಲ್ಲಿ ಜುಮ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಅಸ್ಸಾಂ, ನಾಗಾಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಮಿಜೋರಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನು ಜುಮ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. So it's a different name. We have in Mexico we have different Mexico and something we have in a different name in the different countries. But now also the primitive subsistence farming is under the practice. So whatever the crop they produce, it's only for the self consumption. Our family member ಗೆ, ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ, ರೈತರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್, but in under this agriculture, so that people don't chop the trees, and it's not a shifting agriculture. Here the land is fixed. In under this intensive subsistence farming, the land is fixed. Land fix ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೀ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಬೂದಿಗಿದೇನು ಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಇನ್ ಅಂಡರ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗ್, they will make use of fertilizer, and they will make use of this ಇರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ಮಳೆಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಾಯಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ, ಅವರೊಂದು ಇರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಳವಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಸಬ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ. ಮತ್ತು ಲೇಬರ್ನ ಹೊರಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಕರೀತಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತು ತಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಕುಟುಂಬದವರು ಕೂಡ ಲೇಬರ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಮಷಿನ್ಸು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಫರ್ಟಿಲಿಟಿ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್. ಓಕೆ, this type of farming is practiced this area of a high populated pressure on the land. It is labor intensive farming. So here they will hire a labor from other, means outside they will hire a labor not only for their family members, and they will hire a labor from other family for working in their agriculture field. The biological input and irrigation are used for obtaining higher production. ಬಯೋಲಾಜಿಕಲ್ ಇನ್ಪುಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಯೂರ್, ಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳು, ಈ ಹಸು ದನಗಳ ಗೊಬ್ಬರಗಳು ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮತ್ತು ಇರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಉಪಯೋಗಿಸ್ತಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಫಾರ್ಮಿಂಗಲ್ಲಿ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ನಾಟ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಅ ಶಿಫ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್. ದಿಸ್ ಇನಾರ್ಮಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸರ್ ಆನ್ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಇನಾರ್ಮಸ್ ಪ್ರೆಸರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ they will not leave agricultural field without cultivation. So continuously when they get a crop yield, when they get yield after harvesting, after 1 and 2 weeks they will sow the seeds again. The continuous this land will remains busy continuously. That's what it is. It will be having high pressure in this intensive subsistence farming. So that's about, we have discussed about subsistence farming. In next class we'll discuss about the commercial farming. I hope you understood, and come to the school and complete your exercise book and buy a reference book and write your rough notebook. Work hard. Thank you. Have a nice day.